The United States has imposed sanctions on a Belgian businessman, Alain Goetz, and a network of companies linked to him. Now, Alain and the companies are allegedly involved, as far as the U.S. Treasury Department is concerned, in illegal gold exports valued at hundreds of millions a year in the Democratic Republic of Congo. Now, Alain claims that his inclusion in the sanctions list, quote, seems to be based on misinformation, end of quote. He says he has not been to the Democratic Republic of Congo in more than 20 years, and he's not kept any active contacts either within Congo. Now, the United States, however, says a network of armed groups, smugglers and companies generate illicit revenue from the gold industry through forced labor, smuggling and other means. They add that Alain's network sources gold not just from the DRC, but also from Kenya, South Sudan and Tanzania. Let's bring you up to speed on this story. Chris Ochambringa joins us from Kinshasa. Michael Baleke joins us from Kampala, the Ugandan capital. So, Chris, let's start with you. What's the reaction to this move by the US today to sanction Alain and his related companies?
Well, there's been no reaction from the DRC government, although in the past authorities here have said that they're willing to work with any individual or government that helps to improve, the sector, the mining sector, especially by stopping the illegal activities in the east of the country. I also spoke to a number of observers in the mining sector, and some of them were happy that this decision has been taken by the US government because they say that it will send a very strong message to other players in the DRC's mining sector who are not playing by the rules. They hope that they will start disclosing the whole amount of money that they make from this country so that the people, the local Congolese people, can benefit from the minerals in the country. They also hope that this will set in motion a number of reforms by the government to improve, to streamline the mining sector in this country so that the country gets all the revenues that it deserves from this sector. Rama?
Michael, over to you in Kampala. Has there been a reaction from the authorities in Uganda yet? Because AGR, Africa Gold Refinery, the company that's actually set up in the country, its output alone makes up for a big chunk of Uganda's gold exports, valued at over $500 million in 2018. So on paper, this is a big hit to the country's foreign exchange earnings.
Hello, Rama. Unfortunately, the government has remained silent on sanctions slapped on Mr. Alain and, of course, over these gold dealings. But, Rama, this is not a new subject here in Uganda and definitely in the circles around the region. It is widely known that Uganda does not really have that much gold, and a handful of gold is probably gotten from artisanal mining within the country. But let me give you an example, Rama, that in 2020, Uganda exported about $1.8 billion worth of gold. And this is more than 50 times what the country was exporting in 2016 before the African Gold Refinery owned by Mr. Alain came into place. And the Bank of Uganda has been on record. Every time it announces the country's export receipts, it says excluding gold. They even joke about it. They're not sure. They always say they're not sure where the gold is coming from in Uganda. So they are aware that much of this gold actually just comes in from across the border. And on whether this may affect the forex, of course, some people have talked to say, well, they don't think so because much of this money and the gold refined in Uganda is imported. And there is very little that finds its way back into the hands of the local artisanal mining. And secondly, Uganda is a liberal economy. So many of the investors here are free to bring in and take out money. So Mr. Alain, of course, owns much of this this company, the AGR company. And of course, most of the shares are owned by a subsidiary in Seychelles. And much of this money, we think, and profits are repatriated to Seychelles. So that's it, Rama.
Right. Chris, let me pick up on something that Michael mentioned there. Traceability, especially in the DRC's gold sector and the artisanal mines in the east of the country. Why is that especially difficult for the government to do?
Well, there are a number of reasons, but the first one is the insecurity in the eastern DRC. Now, most of the gold that's exported to foreign countries from the DRC is found in Ituri and North Kivu province. These are provinces in the east and northeast of this country. Now, these two provinces have been rocked by conflict for very many years, and the UN and other international NGOs have written reports indicating that a lot of the mining sites in the east of the country are controlled by rebels. So this conflict that is happening in the east of the DRC has made it very difficult for the government to have a control, to track and monitor the supply chains of these minerals that keep getting smuggled and taken to foreign countries. Another reason is corruption. Some of the people who are supposed to enforce the law in the DRC are engaged in taking bribes by some of these individuals or multinational companies, and they let them get away, with under-declaring or smuggling the minerals to foreign countries. And that is a problem, a very big problem, because if the people who are charged with ensuring that the sector is well governed are engaged in this, then there's certainly this problem will continue for a very long time. Another issue is the weakness, the presence of the DRC government is not very strong in eastern DRC. By that I mean the government has not given the local leaders in those areas resources and the means to monitor this illegal activity. That is one of the reasons. Now, also there's a reason. Back during the former president Joseph Kabila's tenure, there were a number of international NGOs that wrote reports indicating the illegal exploitation of minerals in the DRC is fueling the conflict, and they talked to some of these gold dealers to stop buying gold from the DRC because they were saying that these conflict minerals, they are fueling human rights abuses, rape, internal displacements, and so these companies stopped buying gold from the DRC. Now the artisanal miners, the small-scale miners, decided to start smuggling it to other countries because the gold can be smuggled. It's in small quantities. It's very easy to do that, and that is why this problem has been continuing for very many years. Rama?
All right, Michael, picking up on something that Chris mentioned there, the US Treasury has argued that at least, by their estimation, at least 90% of the DRC's gold is just smuggled out of the country in order to be refined and exported elsewhere, as we saw in Uganda. So what is the government in Kampala doing to try and ensure that the gold it does export can be traced back to legitimate operations, or is that just something that it's not particularly keen on doing?
Rama, some of these questions have previously been asked even by the Ugandan parliament here. And some of the partners and, let's say, traders or dealers in gold business here in Uganda are powerful individuals high up in the ranks of government. In the 2019, recently, a consignment of gold headed for the refinery here in Kampala, the AGR refinery, was briefly confiscated by the police at the airport over allegations that the shipment was coming from Venezuela. But from the Attorney General, after a few days, ordered for the gold to be handed back to the refinery. And they were only cautioned that they shouldn't get any more gold in from Venezuela because of the US sanctions. But you see, the regulations for gold trade have been formulated here in Uganda. But of course, the commitment to implement them is not there because senior government officials are believed to be benefiting from this loot. And so there's little incentive to act, follow up and trace the movement of gold. Rama?
Indeed, we'll leave you there for the time being. Gentlemen, thank you for your updates. Chris Chamringa in Kinshasa and, of course, Michael Baleka there in Kampala as well.